under head coach Mike Tomlin. Ryan, you have been down on the Steelers, and understandably so, but what is your confidence level now in the team after what you saw from them yesterday?
I mean, Charlie, why'd you have to put it like that? Why couldn't I just be asked the questions without bringing up the fact that I've been down on it?
I like to preface things. I like to give some background information.
I know it could have been like, RC, how do you feel? Go. I think, obviously, expectations.
I said understandably so. I backed you up.
I think, expectations are obviously the largest leaders of disappointment. Right? When you have expectations and you think a team is a certain thing, or you think someone's a certain thing, and then they let you down, now you're disappointed. Well, I have been disappointed the last 3 weeks. And so now I was kind of at the point I got to with Birdman when he was rapping with Cash Money. I always expected Birdman's verse to ruin the song. Like, you could go Wheezy first and then you could have Drake. But so what they started to do was put Birdman in the middle of both of them. So you wanted to listen to Wheezy first or Drake first, and then you wanted to listen to one of them at the end. So you just got through it. That's kind of where I am with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I didn't expect this team to be able to win a playoff game. I'm going to be honest. I didn't expect this team.
Are you asking what happened to those boys?
I am. Right. Now, rub my hand, and the clips are there. Absolutely.
Try to throw in a reference
there. That, Charlie. And so now, you see this team and you have a great second half and you protect Ben Roethlisberger, and now you actually start to push the ball down the field. But here comes my confusion. Who was that? Was that Randy Fichtner plan? Did he now understand that you got to protect Ben Roethlisberger and we have to try to push the ball downfield instead of this kind of dink and dunk, hit the short pass, get yards after the catch? Or was that Ben Roethlisberger? Was that Ben saying, you know what, I'm running the offense now? They sped the pace up. They got out of the huddle quicker. They did some no huddle. They did some hurrying up to the line, and that helped this team. And then defensively, you saw what happens when you make Phillip Rivers play quarterback. He doesn't always quarterback the best he can. So I do feel better than I felt last week, where I felt like this team had no opportunity to beat a playoff caliber or playoff level team. But I'm not in the same place I was when I thought that they were the largest threat to the Kansas City Chiefs, when I thought that Ben Roethlisberger could stand across the field for Patrick Mahomes and go toe-to-toe, or that this defense could get in Patrick Mahomes' face enough to cause him enough confusion to make him have enough problems where this team could win. And so where you are encouraged that they had a good second half, you don't feel any differently about their chances to win the Super Bowl. And when you play for Pittsburgh, that's the bottom line. And today, they haven't met that standard.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you're comparing everybody to Kansas City, you could say that about everybody. But I do feel a lot more confident for the Steelers because of what Ben was able to do in the second half. I know it's just one half, but it's showing a capability that I didn't know he still had. Like, he was awesome in passes for more than 10 yards down the field, and very impressive in passes for more than 20 yards down the field. That's stuff that I thought was no longer in his game, and that's stuff you're going to need. And it was in a situation while you're down 17 points, I think, at one point, so the defense knows you're going to have to throw the ball, and he is completing those passes with confidence. It's something that I thought was out of their game. They're going to have to be able to do that, and no one's going to out-defense the Chiefs. Like, that's not how you're going to win. You're not going to win by shutting down the Chiefs. Even though we saw the Cardinals seem to do it recently, if your game plan is we're going to stop Patrick Mahomes, you're going to lose. Your game plan needs to be that we're going to score with them and try to slow them down and create some mistakes. And I think that the Steelers have enough personnel. If that second half wasn't just an aberration, maybe Ben was saving it. He just been saving it all year. Like, I'm not going to waste this arm in a regular season. I'm going to save it until I get my big moment, and they need to see it. And now they see it because it seemed like it's something that he could do. It just, he hasn't done it yet.
I mean, you think back early on in the season, right? You go back to the Philadelphia game, kind of when we started to see Chase Claypool break out, and we thought all to ourselves, oh, my goodness, this might be the best rookie wide receiver that was drafted. We saw some of those things from Ben during that time, and then they kind of hit this lull probably after the Baltimore Ravens games where we didn't see that same type of offense. Right. And now when you lose a Bud Dupree, when you lose a Devin Bush on defense, obviously you get Vince Williams back. We got to see the second half, some pressure up front. You saw the turnover by Mike Hilton. All of those things were kind of reminiscent of how they were winning games early on this season. But even when they were doing that, there was always that question in your mind, what kind of happens when the bottom falls out of this team? And we saw that against the Washington football team in the second half. We saw that against Buffalo, and we saw that against Cincinnati. I think they have to play all of their guys and truly try to win this game against the Cleveland Browns, even though they clinched the division, because it's important that they keep this thing rolling.
Right. I think to bring back to your New Orleans analogy, I think the game changed on them. And just like the game changed on Birdman. And I love New Orleans, and New Orleans has some great rappers. But at one point, let's be honest, at one point, what Birdman was putting out there was acceptable New Orleans rap lyric content. And then the game changed. Wheezy and Outkast and other down south rappers came with some real lyrics. Then you had to step it up. So Ben's in the same situation. That short stuff ain't gonna work in the playoffs. The game has changed. People really spitting now. You can't just say exactly what you're gonna do. We need some metaphors or something. Give me something.
I mean, we have made just as many rap references as we have sports references, I think, on the show so far. We've had West Coast,
That's
down
called a good
south.
show, Charlie.
I'm waiting to see what's next. We still have a few more topics to cover. So, guys, keep your ears peeled for some more rap references. But, look, last night's Steelers come from behind victory. Not quite the same story for the Packers, because last night Aaron Rodgers showed us why Stephen A. calls him a bad man on Sunday Night Football, tossing 4 touchdowns in last night's 40-14 victory over the Titans. Dom, let's start with you here. What's your biggest takeaway from the Packers win?
I think that they should be the favorites in the NFC. It's my biggest takeaway. I think that what Aaron Rodgers did yesterday was incredible, and also it feels like he's wrapped up the MVP trophy.
And gentlemen, too bad we already said goodbye to Dan, because the Eagles will fly no more after losing to an early lead against the Cowboys yesterday, eventually going down 37-17 in an elimination game for Philly. Jalen Hurts throwing for over 300 yards, but he also racked up 3 turnovers. Now, Ryan Clark is back here with us, and Dom, I want to know, even after having those several hiccups yesterday, is Jalen Hurts the starting quarterback for Philly moving forward, you think?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that Jalen Hurts is going to be like the franchise quarterback, that he's going to earn some long-term deal at some point, because I think it's too early to tell all that. But what is not too early to tell is he's the best quarterback they have in the building, and they're not going to be in position, nor should they be considering going after a new quarterback in the draft. And maybe there's something out there in free agency, but I feel like we're pretty sure that Carson Wentz is not the answer. So I'm not sure who else they're going to put at quarterback to start next season. Maybe Jalen Hurts loses it at some point throughout next season. But everything he's shown, considering that he was a rookie who was not planning to get much play time, they dropped him in this situation. And the offense has been, by most statistical measures and by our own eye test, the offense and the defense, frankly, the team in general feels like it's been better. It's been in a better place. It's been moving in a better direction, despite the fact that they lost the last 2 games. This seems like a respectable team, which they weren't before. And we watched all the reasons why people made excuses for Carson Wentz, and I feel bad saying their excuses. They were good reasons, like the depletion of the offensive line and the playmakers and the play calling. Like, there were a lot of things wrong with that Eagles team outside of Carson Wentz. But all those things seemed to disappear when Jalen Hurts came in. So I'm not sure how you could argue that this team could go back to Carson Wentz. And there is no other easy answer out there. So it feels like it's Jalen Hurts', or at least it should be. Maybe it won't be, but it should be Jalen Hurts' job to lose next season.
See, Dom, toward the end, you started to get it. See, at first, you were talking as Dominique Morris Chestnut Foxworth, right? That's who you started out as. You were like, I'm gonna talk for me, right? I came on with my cool first take outfit, and I feel real good about the comparisons that have been made to my looks. And so we talk about what I think, but that ain't what Doug Peterson has to think, right? That's not what the Philadelphia Eagles organization has to think. And you got to remember, what happens is you have these biases, right? Whether they're positive or negative, right? Like, there was the bias of watching Carson Wentz in 2017, seeing Carson Wentz take backups and practice squad players to the playoffs last year, that led to him being able to stink it up for so long this season, right? Because he had deposited some things in your emotional bank account that made you remember how good he was. And then there were some negative biases, right? The same biases that people like Rex Ryan and you even said on TV when you were like, we don't know if Jalen Hurts has the skill set to be a great starting quarterback, right? You just said we don't really know if he's earned the franchise yet. And so when you have these questions, and then you see that second half. You see the Dallas Cowboys deploy a little defense that has a spy on Jalen Hurts. The 3 late turnovers, you might go, oh, shoot, maybe we're not sure. Maybe he's not our guy. And I mean, we gave the other guy $110 million. At least we've seen him play like an MVP. So I don't know if Jalen Hurts has earned it. Maybe if they're 3-0 or 2-1 with him, you say that he's earned it. And yes, to the eye test, they look better. Yes, statistically as an offense, they are better. He has produced, but they're still 1-2. And if you're going to say to yourself, you know what? We just stink, period. Whether Jalen's the quarterback, Carson's the quarterback, I don't know if that necessarily means he's earned the trust of the organization to be the quarterback going forward. And you know, don't be coy, don't be fooled. You know Jalen Hurts got to earn it. Right? Like in New Orleans, we don't use, we don't put the adjective or the adverb in front of the word and say, you know what, he has to play extremely well. Nah, we be like, he got to play good to get it. You feel me? And that's where Jalen Hurts is right now. So having these little hiccups, not necessarily finishing 2 games, I think puts the Eagles in the place where they can talk themselves back into a quarterback competition or talk themselves back into Carson Wentz being the guy. And that's the part that I think makes it a little murky.
I think you're right. You're right. If it's at all close. And I think whether you meant to or